again. Welcome back. This is Drew in 32, and this is the 8th episode of the mini-series, in which I will be sharing about greed and moving beyond greed, and some related nuggets there. And also, I think a little bit of a commentary on capitalism will come through here. Because I'm not like anti-capitalism, but I think if capitalism really is going to work, it has to be in a different form or a different version, right? Like capitalism without morals or ethics is the clusterfuck that we have currently. And so I do think maybe it's just elements of capitalism that would be cool. I don't know. We'll climb into that later. Yeah. So we'll do a commentary on capitalism later. And yeah, I'm not some like diehard socialist or anything, right? So don't get me wrong. But it is also very obvious to me that our current economic system and philosophy is not serving the vast majority of folks, and is also kind of warped by a lack of ethics or morals or whatever you want to call it. So we'll chop that up later. But first I want to talk more about, what I see driving that system in a funky way, which is greed. And again, it's easy to judge greed as like, oh, that's bad, that's awful, you shouldn't be greedy, you shouldn't take more than you need, you shouldn't hoard stuff, right? Like, it's easy to throw guilt and shame at that thing, right? Or behaviors that, are on that wavelength or of that energy. But again, pausing the judgment train and taking a step back and trying to really understand the dynamics of greed and where it's come from and how it manifests and why it continues, I think that's more helpful than just pointing fingers and saying, greed's bad, don't be greedy. Right? Because if that worked, I think we would have done that already and changes would happen. But yeah, in general, I think that if you attempt to address something and that attempted solution doesn't work, to me, that indicates a lack of understanding, right? And so with more understanding of the thing or the system the thing's in, right? Like with a bigger understanding, we're almost always able to see things clearer, and then natural solutions evolve. So I'm not a big fan of rushing to judgment or rushing to fix. I'd rather take our time and really see and understand and feel into things. And my experience says that, when we take time to actually be with something, we understand it deeper or differently or more intimately, and then natural ways of moving emerge. So, we don't have to work so hard on a plan if we're willing to actually sit with the thing. And so that's what I want to do here in the first part of the episode, is sit with greed. Because, I see it very clearly everywhere in our society, or at least in a lot of ways, in a lot of venues. And my first thought or hypothesis when it comes to greed is I don't think it originally was born of like sinister motivations, right? Like I don't think somewhere at some point in human history somebody woke up and was like, you know what, I'm gonna really screw them, and I'm just gonna take more than I need. I don't think that's how it happened or it began. I think the origins of what is now greed started in something much more innocent. And really, I see greed as a distorted version of self-preservation. And there's nothing wrong with self-preservation, right? Like if we're not looking out for ourselves and meeting our needs and taking care of ourselves, then life is a lot less fun, or we don't exist, right? We cease to exist if we don't preserve ourselves. So yeah, I think self-preservation is a thing that is cool, but at some point somehow a distortion began, and now we wind up with this really exaggerated, distorted practice of self-preservation that I would call greed, which is just people taking way more than they need, hoarding stuff just in case they need it, right? And again, if there's billions of something somewhere, then there's a whole lot of empties or nothings, right, as well. Right? Like if we've consolidated any kind of wealth or any kind of resource in one space, then there's a lot of other space that doesn't have that. And so I also see greed as an imbalance, right, especially in society as a whole. So, yeah, coming back to this idea that greed isn't necessarily like evil at its roots. And so the image, or it almost was like a whole parable that came through, right? This image or this visual was essentially like, at some point, everybody just took what they needed and everybody was cool. And you can call that abundance, or you can just call that balance, whatever, right? But everybody didn't want for anything because everybody had enough. Yeah, and at some point, somebody took a little bit more than they needed, probably, out of a motivation for convenience, and not, to intentionally screw anybody over, right? Maybe it was just short-sighted. Like, oh yeah, I'll go down to the fruit bush this morning, and instead of getting, 1 bushel of fruits for my family for today, I'm going to take 2 bushels of fruits so I don't have to walk back here tomorrow, because I don't know, I don't want to walk all the way down to the river again, right? And so like that thought process is super easy to follow, and can quickly then result in somebody else showing up and not being able to get the fruit they came for, right? Because if I'm taking for today and tomorrow and the day after, well, now I'm really taking 2 more than today's allotment. And so now there's potentially 2 other people who come for today and it's not there because I took it tomorrow or I took the next day, right? And so again, self-preservation, maybe a desire for convenience, and not an intentional, like, I'm going to screw them over, or I hope they're hungry and don't eat. Like, I don't think that was probably the first time somebody took more than they needed. But what happens as a result, right, if I take more than I need and then somebody else can't get what they need, now you have the experience of lack. And that stinks, A, because, maybe now you're hungry, right? So you have to go to bed hungry, and you have to deal with your hangry family and all the tension and crazy behaviors that show up when people are hangry. Yeah, so you have the short-term impact there. But I think the more devastating blow in this situation is to the trust in the system as a whole. Right? Like, if I've been going to the same market or the same fruit bush, my whole life, and there's always enough, there's a sense of trust there, and so I'm never worried about, oh, will there be enough, or, oh, what happens if there's not any there, or what am I going to have to do to get more? Like, none of that exists until the first time somebody shows up and there's not enough. And once a couple people stop trusting the system, then the dynamics within the system are going to change. Because if I wake up in the morning and I just trust that, if I get down to the river by 2:00 to get my fruit bushel, or, I get to the market by late morning and I'll be able to get all my bread, yeah, then I just go whenever and there's not really a concern or a worry. But after the first time I go and there isn't any, now there's a whole different thought process that starts to creep in. All right, now it's like, maybe I should go earlier. Maybe I should take 2 or 3 portions. right? So that like I have some for today, but also I won't go hungry tomorrow like I was hungry yesterday. And so now folks are more self-oriented, or self-preservation becomes a higher priority, if you will. And so instead of being a part of a bigger system and there being trust, now the focus is a little bit more local, a little bit more on yourself and your family, and potentially taking more than you need today to make sure that you don't go without tomorrow. And I think that mentality is very evident in current society where, a percentage of the population has more money than they will ever need in multiple lifetimes, and other parts of the population go to sleep hungry more often than not. And so the system's out of whack, and there isn't trust in the system, right? There isn't trust in the bigger thing that we're all a part of, that we all will be provided for, that we will all be taken care of, that there will be enough. And so I see the greed and the scarcity mindset. Maybe they're two sides of the same coin, or two parts of the same spiral, right? Because like you don't have greed without scarcity, or a belief in scarcity, or the experience of scarcity. And then you don't get scarcity unless people are being greedy. Oh, wait, hold on. Did I say that right? Yeah, like you can't have one without the other. If you have greed, it probably came from a scarcity experience, and then it is going to create another scarcity experience, right? If you continue to take more than you need. And then if we look at it from the scarcity place, like if you're afraid you're not going to have enough, it's probably because you were victimized, right? Or on the victim end of somebody else's greed at some point, which then could make you more likely to participate in greedy behaviors yourself. And then, again, take a look at our society: dog eat dog, greed eat greed, right? Like grind, fight. It's all rooted in this belief that there isn't enough. And the way that we're currently living, there's not enough available for everybody to get what they need, because some folks are hoarding way more than they ever will need. All right. And so now, present day, like working 50, 60, 70 hours, or being a part of like grind culture, or, trying to get yours, or make $1 million or $1 billion, like all the marketing, get rich quick, like sell people. Like a lot of this energy is in the coaching world, or at least that was my experience, right? There's a lot of like getting people to need you so that you can get their money. Like it just, I don't know. It looks nice on the surface and people are really good at justifying it. And I think some people are just not in touch with themselves at all or not at depth. So they're able to believe the shit they make up about their behaviors. But if you're trying to like convince people or sell people all the time on something, I don't know, that just, there's something about that doesn't feel right. Yeah. Anywho. So, I don't think greed came from sinister origins. I think it just started probably pretty naturally out of somebody's desire for convenience, and then has spun in a really funky direction for a long time, to where now you can pretty much trust that the system won't take care of you, right? Like at one point, people could trust that the system would take care of them, and it allowed for a certain quality of experience and for everybody's needs to be met, right? And much more of a balanced experience as a whole, as a society. But now, shit is way out of balance, right? Like the economic disparity, or the the difference between the 1% or the 10% and then everybody else. Yeah. And so at this point in history, you can pretty much trust that the system isn't going to look out for you and will actually take advantage of you in multiple ways. And so you better get somebody before you get got. You know what I mean? It's a Marshawn Lynch quote. I love it. It's like, I might get got, but I'm going to get somebody. I don't know. But I mean, like, that's the approach right now, I feel like, for a lot of people. It's like, I'm going to get mine, and I'm going to get it from other people if I have to. And sometimes, the system might get me or other people might get me, but I'm going to make sure I get mine. And so it's a lot of getting and a lot of folks working against each other as opposed to, that abundance, balanced experience where there's a lot more receiving and, and folks working together as a collective whole. And so, yeah, man. And I think really a quick, effective way to address this general distrust in the system that doesn't deserve our trust, right? Because it's corrupt. A quick way to address some of the funky dynamics is to provide for folks' basic needs, right? So in the last episode, I was talking about healthcare, basic income, right? Now all of a sudden, everybody has enough to eat, to have shelter, right? To have a certain quality of life. And then once folks can take some deep breaths and stop fighting each other for survival and instead start to share the experience of being alive a little bit more. Yeah, a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of projected nonsense, all of that just fades away naturally. Yeah, man. We can't have the wealth distributed the way it is currently and expect people to be the best versions of themselves. And if I can't trust that the system's going to take care of me or that my needs will be met or that my family's needs will be met, then I'm going to do what I need to do. So I respect it. I dig it. I just also know there's a different way for society as a whole to function. And so, people don't have to live like that. Because it does take a toll on your soul. I don't care what nobody says, man. Like, it's cool to work hard. It's cool to, wake up early and work with your hands and put in a hard day's work and, earn your keep. Like, I'm all for that. But the extra push into the grind culture and the willingness to deal in bad faith or try to manipulate people, right? Or like some of the darker psychology of selling, like all of that shit. Yeah, I can lose that. We don't need that. That stuff is wearing on people's souls. And so we don't have to live in a way as human beings where we are compromising part of our being, right? Which is, call it the soul or the essence or, whatever. But the part of us that's like connected to all the rest of us, right? Because we're all part of one thing here. And so I think we can live as humans without it coming at the expense or the cost of our soul or our spirit or our peace, right? Our internal well-being. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let me see what else I got here in the notes. Oh, yeah. So this billions thing. Like, what the fuck? Why does anyone have a billion of anything? Like, that is absurd. I mean, maybe the planet can have billions of humans. But, I mean, maybe that's not even... Maybe there shouldn't even be that many of us. But, anywho. Yeah, those of us that are here currently, right, as we are, and specifically within the United States bubble, yeah, man, like, there's no need for people to have billions of anything. Because if a few people have billions, then billions of people have few, right? Or really, if a few people have billions, there's a whole bunch of folks that are going without. And so that's totally out of balance. And again, you can justify having billions of monies or billions of food or billions of whatever in relationship to the society, and it makes sense, right? Like in a society where the government isn't really for the people and is going to take advantage of the people, and the government officials are being paid for and moved around by like an elite, wealthy corporation class. So the people are, being profited off of by the different corporations, right? In a society like that, yes, get all the money that you can so that you can be above having rough shit happen to you by the billionaires, right? Like essentially you're the billionaires inflicting the harm, or you're the people, the rest of us, who are dealing with the inflicted harm. And so it makes sense then, yeah, go get billions. But taking a step back and looking from a slightly more sane place, right? Maybe we shouldn't have anybody having billions of anything, right? Like maybe we should all have what we need. And if we can distribute the monies a little more fairly, or the food a little more fairly, or really all the resources, then folks, again, can take a deep breath because their basic needs are met. And then it allows for trust in each other and trust in the system again. And that's a much cooler experience. I mean, plenty of us have been in relationships with other human beings where there has been trust, and then other ones where there hasn't been trust. And the ones where there's trust are always cooler. I mean, the ones without trust, maybe there's some sadistic or like, whatever need getting met there. But again, from like a soul-centered place, an open-hearted place, the relationships that have trust as a defining quality, yeah, those are always a nicer experience. And so why don't we do society like that, right? And again, we can. We just got to give folks what they need. And there's plenty to go around, right? Sometimes I hear folks talk about abundance and, they get all weird and drunk about it. Like hippie star drunk about, abundance and manifesting and I will get whatever I want. And, I mean, that's cool. That's cute. And if you can do that shit, maybe you're a sorcerer or a witch or something and, you got those powers. Good for you. That's awesome. But I'm not talking about that wavelength. I'm talking about literally there is more than enough of everything on this planet for all of the humans that are currently on this planet. Water, air, oxygen, food, shelter, resources, materials, right? There's more than enough for everybody. But we got people owning shit and hoarding shit. And so now all of a sudden, one guy's got $500 billion, and again, a huge part of the population doesn't have somewhere to live. It's not cool. It's not okay. You might be able to justify it, or you might know people that can justify, like, oh yeah, it's a dog eat dog. This is capitalism. This is America. This is how it is. Bip, 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 bip. Or, or some people might even be able to like quote books and shit to support the belief system that aligns with the current experience. But if we really drop deeper into our own being, right, into our heart, into our gut, into our soul, and feel into this whole situation, it feels pretty fucking awful to know that there's a whole lot of people that aren't eating, that are going to bed hungry, that are going to bed hungry outside without a roof, right? Like, there's a part of us that knows that this is fucked up and it's not okay and it shouldn't be happening. And it doesn't matter what belief systems or justifications, you throw at it. Like, it's simply not okay on a fundamental level. And sure, there's a lot of people that aren't really in tune or in touch with themselves for a variety of reasons, but it doesn't mean this truth doesn't hit a spot in all of us that knows it's a truth, right? That knows that we're all part of the same team here, and everybody should be provided for, and everybody should be looked after and cared for. You know? So, yeah. Billionaires, that shouldn't really even be a thing. Because if you're a billionaire, again, it works within the current system, which is fucked and drunk and not well, but from a place of sanity, to amass that much of something, yeah, like you are ensuring that there are some folks who are going without, right? So like that's not fucking cool. You know, like if we were all just sitting around the campfire eating s'mores, and one fucking guy had all of the bags of marshmallows and most of the bags of chocolate, right? And the rest of us got like 3 marshmallows and a couple pieces of chocolate and the graham crackers. Like, we would make do, but we would also want to beat that fucking dude up and take his shit. You know what I mean? Because it's not right. And so, a society, the way it is currently organized, and the systems that support and allow and encourage this kind of hoarding behavior, this billionaire sickness. Yeah, man, we gotta do some cleaning. We gotta own it, address it, and then start to move differently. And again, solutions are not far away. A couple decisions, a couple movements, maybe a couple signatures, bing, bang, boom. The whole United States population has its basic needs met. All right, we'll let that go for now. Because I want to talk a little bit about capitalism. And this feels like a nice point to segue into it. And again, to clarify, I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I'm not a fucking whatever bullshit name you want to give to somebody that doesn't agree with your ability to just chase stuff in a greedy way, right? I'm a occasionally sane person seeing from a certain perspective. And for me, yeah, the American form of capitalism as we currently know it is fucked, is without morals or ethics, right? And also isn't sustainable, right? Like if you follow the history of capitalism, you can only do the greed chase for so long before the bubble bursts. And then it's actually socialist flavored policies that save our ass. Right? It's happened multiple times. You had the New Deal, you had all the bailouts, right, of the banks in, 2008, 2009? Right? Like, whether you want to hear this or not, when all the banks are about to go under and the government decides to bail out all of the financial institutions, that's a giant government handout, right? That's very democratic, even socialist, as far as the government taking care of the people. And again, I'm not a socialist. I don't identify like that, so I don't know the core principles and tenets. You know, I'm not like super informed there. But I do know that socialism has some idea of like, hey, maybe take care of everyone, you know, or at least more than capitalism, and definitely more than our current form. And so I'm not a big fan of any like label or category or, you know, Kool-Aid. I just like shit that's practical and effective personally. So if we come up with a economic policy that has a little bit of capitalism and a little bit of socialism and a little bit of this-ism and a little bit of that-ism, but it fucking works, I'm about it. Call it whatever you want, but let's do the thing that works. And the current version of capitalism doesn't work. It works for a small percentage of the population who are causing harm to the rest of the population, right? And every so often, the whole thing burns down or the bubble pops. And then we have to take a totally different approach that's much more socialist flavored to then bail out society. or bail out the banks and the billionaires and stuff. And so, yeah, capitalism, again, I think it could work, but it'd have to be done in a way that's like ethical or moral. Like you could have capitalist practices and approaches, right? But that would need to exist within a larger bubble where the overall health and well-being of the society is the most important thing, right? Like we can't have folks going bonkers on capitalist stuff to the deficit or, to the point where it causes harm to society as a whole. And that's where we're at now. Yeah, because the way that the capitalist philosophy is acted upon currently, there is no regard for the larger system, the larger container, and the other people in the container, right? Like our current version of American capitalism is dog eat dog, get it, make money, put your blinders on, your ethical blinders on, and just get the money. And whatever the consequences may be, that'll be somebody else's to deal with. Yeah, it's very much a self-centered approach without any regard for, the consequences or the ripples of the decisions being made. And so if you have, parts of a larger system that are operating in a way that benefit that part, but not the system as a whole, well, that's going to put a whole bunch of stuff out of balance. That's going to mean a whole lot of parts of the system are not getting what they need. And that's ultimately going to lead to a point at which the system needs to rebalance. Yeah, and rebalancing or finding homeostasis again is not always clean or fun. Like if you think about an addict, like a drug addict, opiates or a substance specifically, when their body is attempting to get back to homeostasis, another word for that is actually withdrawal, right? And withdrawal is never fun. Like that rebalancing act is not a good time. And so unless we, really start to lean into a more ethically oriented capitalist practice, or, maybe we just restructure society entirely. All right. So, yeah, just circling back on this because I'm wandering. Our current version of capitalism is operating without ethics and morals, or with a very low bar for ethical and moral behavior, which is having a ripple effect, right, throughout the system. And sure, maybe there's a small part of the population that's figured out the capitalist game really well. And again, to be really successful at American capitalism, you need to be a little bit of a sociopath, right? Like in order to get billions, you need to be good at not caring about other people's quality of life. And however you do that, you do that. If you can just focus on yourself, or you can just cut yourself off from your feelings, or just stay medicated all the time, like whatever it is. But in order to pursue the current version of capitalism in America to the top level of the game, you have to be, like diagnosable, right? There's got to be some kind of psychopath, sociopath, denial of humanity going on there. So I think our version currently is fucked. And it's definitely rooted in the greed scarcity thing, right? But I don't think we need to throw capitalism out entirely, because I do think there are cool facets to, competition and that sparking innovation. But like I said, capitalism has to happen with some ethics, with some morals, and within a larger understanding that, the overall well-being of society and the individuals in society is more important than anybody's bottom line. And so if you're making billions of dollars and it's coming at the expense of society and the people in society,
then you're out of bounds. That's fucked. And I would say that maybe that even, yeah, like we can start to consider that. Maybe it's not criminal, but it's like civil. All right, like maybe you don't go to jail for doing that, but those bottom lines that you're so worried about, those should take huge hits if you're delivering huge negative hits to the quality of life for most of society. I don't see how there isn't accountability there. Well, I mean, again, from a sane place, there definitely has to be accountability. From our current corrupt, distorted system, yeah, of course there's going to be no accountability, right? Right? How else do you maintain billionaires who can buy politicians? So, yeah, and I also like this phrase came through. Maybe this is what we'll end with. The idea of basic needs being basic rights. So, as a human being in the United States, as a citizen of the U.S., your basic needs should be your basic rights. Food, water, shelter. Those needs, you shouldn't have to earn those, or those shouldn't be dangled as like the carrot while, somebody sucks 40 years out of your life, or sucks, a never-ending loan payment out of your life, right? Like, we shouldn't be on the hook to earn the stuff that's basic for human experience, for human survival, right? And I mean, if you're looking at it from a more greedy, like capitalist sociopath perspective, what would be better to profit off of than something someone needs, right? Like if somebody needs water, well then if I own the water, I have customers forever, right? And this is kind of the approach with why there's so much shit in our food, right? Like you get people hooked on food because of how you're messing with it. And yeah, it's food. So now you have people addicted to certain types of food or chemicals in food. And yeah, they're permanent customers, right? And so from that standpoint, yeah, it's a brilliant business move to profit off of something that people need, that people can't live without. But but the system that allows that is fucking drunk as shit, right? Like if you're allowing the people that are in your charge to be manipulated and profited off of for their basic needs of existence, you have lost plot. You are not caring for your people. And that's what's happening here in the United States. The profit-driven greed maniacs of the billionaire, wealthy echelon or status or whatever that is. Those folks are super smart and have figured out a million different ways to profit off of the herd, right? To just move the livestock around and profit off of anything and everything, including basic needs. And I just don't think that that's okay. Like, I think that people's basic needs should be basic rights. Right? Like, you're born, you're here, welcome to Earth, welcome to the United States. Basic rights of being a person here is you'll always have some food, you'll always have a shelter, you'll have your essentials met, you'll have health care, you'll have access to an education that actually helps and supports you in being the coolest version of you. And then you can contribute that to society, right? Like those things, those should be rights. You shouldn't have to sign 10 years of your life away so that you can pay for a student loan, or work 80 hours a week at 2 jobs so that you can pay off medical debt. Right? Like, this is fucked. This is just because you have Instagram and Facebook and fucking whatever else, it doesn't mean that the rest of this isn't fucked. Yeah. So anywho, essentially, when our basic needs are opportunities for billionaires to profit off of, you know that the system is riddled with greed and that we as a society are super lost. But
again, we can get found real quick. But sometimes, you got to get real lost first before getting found is even an option. So hopefully we can see and recognize how lost, how distorted, how wacky, how off track and out of a line the society is. Right? Like how drunk our moral compass currently is as a society. Yeah, and really a big way to do that is tuning in. Right? Like I don't think you heal society. I think people who tune in and get connected and aligned and healed, they then create a cooler version of society. Right? So I definitely have a plan for how to tweak the structure to support folks in then being their most awesome selves, and then have the most faith in people being authentic and listening to their heart and knowing that that will wind up somewhere cool. So anywho, basic needs should be basic rights. They shouldn't be dangled and then we're profited off of in our attempt to meet our basic needs. It's just gross. Yeah, there shouldn't be billions of anything anywhere, or at least billions in one place when there's not any in other spots, right? And billionaires is like an obscene concept that exists. And while the manifestations currently are super harmful, super damaging, and causing so much stress and anxiety that's unnecessary, I think the origins are innocent. I think somebody one day just conveniently wanted a little bit more of something, and and then that just spun and multiplied and magnified, and now we're here. So I don't think this is something we need to demonize. I think we've got to recognize the shit's fucked, right? But then, as always, the name of the game is to see it without shaming it, to recognize something without then immediately moving to judgment and guilt and then projecting a bunch of pain and hurt and anger and fear onto something, right? We got to be able to see it for what it is, feel whatever comes up, be with our own experience, and then a new space will open up where a new way of moving and a new way of organizing society will become inevitable. So there's tweaks to society to be made, but there's also a whole lot of work that we got to do as individuals as well. All right. That's it. That's greed. That's capitalism. That's the episode. Hopefully there's some cool stuff in here to chew on. And, oh yeah, we'll end with this quote. Or I think it's JFK. The think not what you can do for your... No, how does it go? Don't think what your country can do for you. Think what you can do for your country. There you go. So that's a different time, different era. But I think there's a certain sentiment there that's very appropriate in the present moment as well, right? And so rather than what can I get from somebody else or from the country, or, what can I exploit? What can I extract? Right? What can I take? Maybe a little more energy in the direction of what can I give? What can I offer? How can I support? Right? Because if there's a whole bunch of us that start to get on the given wavelength, then we're moving back towards balance and abundance, right? Because a big part of the out of whackness that we're currently experiencing is that everybody's looking to get. Everybody's trying to take as much as they can, right? And give as little as possible. And that's how you bankrupt something. So, maybe it's something small today, like what can you offer? What can you give? Rather than what can you get? What can you take? You go to the corner store, or, I'm a Jersey guy, so you go to Wawa maybe. But, you go to the store, you go to the market, and you're going there to get your groceries or your snack or your coffee, whatever it is. But also, what can you give? Right? Like, can you hold eye contact a little bit longer and smile? Can you hold the door for somebody? Can you leave a little tip in the tip jar? Right? Like, what can you offer? What can you give? Because that's the energy that will balance out some of the distortion that we're currently living in. And I know it's hard to give in a world where it feels like everybody's taken. Like that hits so deep for me personally too. Yeah. I just feel like I give so much more than I get from people, from society. Right? And there's a lot of sadness and there's a lot of disappointment and there's a lot of hurt in my personal system as a result of that imbalance. But it doesn't mean that giving isn't the thing to do. You know? Like closing down altogether, closing down your heart, or, you know, just not giving at all anymore. That's definitely not the answer. That could be a protective move for a period of time, or that could be a strategy for certain situations and environments, right? Like if you step into a certain environment full of takers, don't show up wide open and giving. But yeah, we gotta find a better balance of giving, and then it's not taking, it's receiving. All right. Right now, it's like taking from people who are hoarding, or taking and withholding. And we want to get to a dynamic that's more giving and receiving again. Yeah, because that's where flow happens, instead of the static, stagnant kind of murky energy that is around a lot now. But yeah, we got to give to live. Maybe. I mean, we could probably survive without giving, but that's not really living. And we also need to learn how to give in ways that don't abandon ourselves. Yeah. Because I've also been really good at that personally. Like I'll give and give and give, but it's not really noble. It's self-abandonment. So then I can tell myself a martyr story and then, you know, feel bad for myself and live in a little drama bubble that doesn't feel good. So that's part of my work, is to continue to learn how to be available and give and offer in ways that also fill me up, but definitely don't drain me dry. And that's a practice. So, yeah, man. Like I said, we all got to be doing our own work. And then that will show up in how we relate and connect with each other. And that will absolutely manifest in the society that we share together. Yeah. It's got to be twofold, though. That's what I'm seeing pretty clearly in this moment. We have to have structures and institutions that are a little more soul-friendly, a little bit more people-supportive, to protect us and to create the space and the environment where then more and more of us can do the work, right? Come back to ourselves and unlearn the bullshit and learn to live in balance with each other again. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like a utopia pipe dream, but it's a possibility, man. And again, we don't have to go all the way to the full utopia experience for things to get better. Like, we just got to take a couple cool steps in that direction, and shit will immediately be way easier. So, all right, that's it. I'm done. I won't be greedy with your time anymore. I'll let you go. So, as always, be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself. Like I said, see where the opportunities are for you to give a little bit more, and see how that works out, you know. And also do it in places and spaces and with people that feel emotionally safe, right? Don't just go giving willy-nilly to a bunch of succubuses. That sucks. Don't do that. But if you make it an intention, there will be an opportunity in your not too distant future where the setting will be right, the people will be right, and you'll have the opportunity to give a little bit more, or be a little more generous, or a little more open, or a little more trusting. And yeah, and lean in, man. See what happens. All right. That'll be the end here, officially, for real. And yeah, tune in next time if you'd like a little bit more of these flavors. The next episode, I'll be sharing about foreign policy, but really like the United States' place in the world. And yeah, we'll get into some international stuff because we got a lot of work to do here at home for sure. But we also got to clean up our act a little bit on the world stage as well. And so that will be what I'm sharing on in the next episode if you're interested. But that'll be then. This will be now. Be awesome. Stay awesome. And I will see you a little further down the road.